Hi again. Walter Rauschenbusch, in the chapter The Social Aims of Jesus in Christianity and the Social Crisis, page 59. The popular hope was all for a divine catastrophe. The kingdom of God was to come by a beneficent earthquake. Someday it would come like the blaze of a meteor, with outward observation, and they could say, "Lo, there it is." We have seen that the prophetic hope had become catastrophic and apocalyptic when the capacity for political self-help was paralyzed. In other words, after the exile and the beginning of the Gentile times, as it were. When the nation was pinned down helplessly by the crushing weight of the oppressors, it had to believe in a divine catastrophe that bore no causal relation to human action. The higher spiritual insight of Jesus reverted to the earlier and nobler prophetic view that the future was to grow out of the present by divine help. While they were waiting for the messianic cataclysm that would bring the kingdom of God ready-made from heaven, he saw it growing up among them. He took his illustrations of its coming from organic life. It was like the seed scattered by the peasant, growing slowly and silently, night and day, by its own germinating force and the food furnished by the earth. The people had the impatience of the uneducated mind, which does not see processes, but clamors for results, big, thunderous, miraculous results. Jesus had the scientific insight, which comes to most men only by training, but to the elect few by divine gift. He grasped the substance of that law of organic development in nature and history, which our own day at last has begun to elaborate systematically. His parables of the sower, the tares, the net, the mustard seed, and the leaven are all polemical, that is apologetic and argumentative in character. He was seeking to displace the crude and misleading catastrophic conceptions by a saner theory about the coming of the kingdom. This conception of growth demanded not only a finer insight, but a higher faith. It takes more faith to see God in the little beginnings than in the completed results. More faith to say that God is now working than to say that he will someday work. Because Jesus believed in the organic growth of the new society, he patiently fostered its growth, cell by cell. Every human life brought under control of the new spirit, which he himself embodied and revealed, was an advance of the kingdom of God. Every time the new thought of the Father and of the right life among men gained firmer hold of a human mind and brought it to the point of action, it meant progress. It is just as when human tissues have been broken down by disease or external force, and new tissue is silently forming under the old and weaving a new web of life. Jesus incarnated a new type of human life, and he was conscious of that. By living with men and thinking and feeling in their presence, he reproduced his own life in others, and they gained faith to risk this new way of living. This process of assimilation went on by the natural capacities inherent in the social organism, just as fresh blood will flow along the established arteries and capillaries. When a nucleus of like-minded men was gathered about him, the assimilating power was greatly reinforced. Jesus joyously felt that the most insignificant man in his company, who shared in this new social spirit, was superior to the grandest exemplification of the old era, John the Baptist. Thus, Jesus worked on individuals and through individuals, but his real end was not individualistic, but social, and in his method he employed strong social forces. He knew that a new view of life would have to be implanted before the new life could be lived, and that the new society would have to nucleate around personal centers of renewal. But his end was not the new soul, but the new society. Not man, but man. That is man with a capital M. I'm going to link to a video we did on Leon Morris's little book, The Nature of Jewish Apocalyptic, which grew in this very period between the end of the Old Kingdom, the political kingdom of Israel and Judah, and the beginning of the new era, which is still with us, the diaspora, when Jews were scattered around the world under Gentile powers. So Leon Morris on Apocalyptic.